Welcome back to another edition of Solved. Today we are doing a redo on a 2014 Mazda CX-5 alternator. We installed one last week and unfortunately it has an internal failure. These are the tools that I used. I might have used one or two more. You have your block of wood and your jack, of course, P-blaster, obviously a replacement alternator, 1/4 inch drive, 3/8 drive power ratchets, 1/4 inch drive extended length ratchet. You have 3/8 with a 17 deep, 3/8 ratchet long, straight pliers, also known as needle nose, 17-19, 14-12, and 10-8. You may not use all those sizes. Bungee cord, pick tool, or a button tool remover, also known as a fork tool. And you have your 10, 12, and 14 inch short and deep with a 1/4 inch drive extended length ratchet to help break things easily. Now I watched the videos and I didn't bother making one last time because it seemed like it was the only approach, but I figured out a different approach, and that's why I'm making the video for you all today. So stick with me, and first thing we're going to do is disconnect the battery. Okay, now when disconnecting the battery, this is going to be exposed. You want to make sure it doesn't make contact. So I keep these just for this purpose, and then of course lay the terminal off to the side so it doesn't make contact. Otherwise there'll be another electrical issue. Or you can use a rag or any other type of cap over there just to block the contact. Next we're going to take off this cover. And now you have a little bit of better exposure. We are going to be putting a bungee here and tying it off that way over there. 17, 17, 17, these three. Then you have a 17 here, one down there, one down there. But you're not going to remove those until you remove the cover, which has some button clips and 10 millimeters. Okay, so here is the cover once it's off. These are the locations where there's bolts. Being a 2418, it's had a bunch of oil changes and repairs before, so it's missing some of these bolts, so you can always replace them. This is the access door panel for oil, and those are the push pins that go by the according holes, and they were missing one on this side too. If you're missing, obviously you can replace it. The P-blaster is a good idea in case these plastic push pins are difficult to come apart, or once you get them out, to separate the pin from the insert. You can use a light amount of grease or the P-blaster, and it helps it move in and out much easier. So now we're going to get to the next part, placing the jack underneath the oil pan. So that's how we're going to do it there. Now in other videos they want you to take the wheel off the ground. I'm going to show you how you don't have to do that here today. So you put it right there against the oil pan, put a little bit of tension on it, and that way when you take the bolts up top off, these three and those three, the other one's down there, right there, that way it'll support the engine from dropping. And when you're taking out the alternator, you're going to need to jack up the motor a little bit so you can get it out of this little corridor right here. Before I forget, these bolts right here were 10 millimeters. I used a 10 millimeter deep. Now back at the top half of the motor, you want to squeeze this here plastic. There's a push pin right here. Okay, that comes off like that. And then you have another one right here, which you simply take the button tool and twist it out and place it to the side. So starting with the back bolt down there, I have a 6-inch and a 3-inch extension. We're going to get that bolt off right now. Then we do this one here. Then you have this one down here. Now only the 3-inch extension. Okay, and the engine dropped a little, that's okay. By the way, a magnet tray is always a good thing. The two short bolts go on the outside. This bolt right here is the long one. The 3 nuts obviously go right here. Then you just simply remove the engine mount. And depending on the mileage, it's a good time to check to see if your engine mount is in good working condition. This appears to be one big piece, so you would have to replace the whole thing. Fortunately, we don't have to replace that mount. It's in good working order. Again, I did replace this last week along with the belt tensioner assembly. And that's when I figured out the easiest way to do this is to attack it from the top. That right there is the 17mm adjustment. That's going to be the long ratchet wrench. Then you have the two 12mm, one right there and one down there. You unlace the belt off the alternator and just let it hang. Very easy to put back together if it loses its position. Once you have your long ratchet, long wrench on there, you'll see that the hydraulic tensioner does most of the work. Then you can either choose to use a wrench or ratchet because you have access, the two 12mm here and here. Okay, now I have both of those 12mm off. You got to negotiate this out of here a little bit. The bolt, as you can see, is undone rather. And you just have to work its way out. It takes a little bit of tilting. I had to put the phone down because I needed two hands, and so will you. But you leave that bolt in and then just, again, kind of back and forth rock it, and then it comes out. Now we have the two 14mm, which you won't need to remove the entire bottom bolt out of the way, and I'll show you how that works, but we do need to do the top bolt, which is right here. And then of course you have your 12mm for the power cable, and then of course the pigtail that connects it. I just want to point out on the power cable, there's a little push in right here. So when this is closed, you just got to push in and it opens up. Then you have access to the 12mm. And once you got the power cable off, just let it hang right there on the fan. I found another button clip right there, which is, oh, hang on a sec, where am I? Everything's moving, shouldn't be moving. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so right here, this hole, that's where this is. So taking that out allows it to be a little bit more manageable, so you can get the alternator out, which will be coming up very soon. 14mm top. Okay, now you got the 14mm bolt out. Oh, it's just out. And that right there is your 14mm that you want to take out. Okay, and that's it right there. I just pulled it out over the belt so you can see it, but you don't need to take it all the way out. And you're going to see in a moment why. So now we're ready to exit the alternator out of there. And what we're going to do is you're going to get yourself a pry bar. Preferably one, if you got one this long, about 3 feet or so, that'd be helpful. If you don't, you're going to have to go the old way method, which is taking off the wheel, taking out some of these plastics, jacking it up, of course, putting it on a jack stand for safety, and then you'll have to still negotiate it out from the top, and then you'll see again why when you install it, that bottom bolt actually stays in. So here's the method right here. Just gently pry against, and you see it's coming right out already. Okay, you'll see the engine move a lot. Don't be afraid, it's perfectly okay. You can go on the ear of the alternator. Okay, how to use two hands, so I put it on pause, but with that bolt still in, okay, I didn't take it out all the way. This is now loose. So then you have to do a bunch of twists and turns and eventually get it out. Okay, so during the process, I wound up disconnecting this pigtail here, which has a single push on it up top. And then I also disconnected the ABS power cable right here, which is a simple latch mechanism here. Much simpler when you have two hands, of course. All right, anyway, it goes right here, and this arm is up here, so you need to go down in order for it to release. And then once you do that, you take it and kind of negotiate your way out. Old alternator is right there. Now we got the new one here, and we're going to put it back in. I'm going to take this off because you won't need it on until you get it in there. By the way, this is the top alternator bolt. This is the bottom bolt. And since we got this rolling, we're going to take the bottom bolt and we're going to insert it now and just finger thread it just a couple times right there, so it leaves enough space, because down there, that little channel is where it sits. So all it needs to do is when you get it down there, it just sets in, then you tilt it up, and then the top bolt will bolt right into its proper place. Before we reinstall it completely, I want to tell you about anti-seize. Great product for bolt metal to metal contact. So when you put this back in, just like today, if we ever have to redo it because of a faulty alternator, all these bolts are going to be treated with it so that the next time you have to take it apart, everything comes off with ease. Put a little grease or pea blaster in all the rubber spots, and the same thing as we mentioned on the buttons for the bottom cover. Okay, so I have it just resting in there, but I wanted to show you how easy it just falls into that channel. Don't forget a little anti-seize for the top bolt. Okay, so now those two 14 millimeters are tight. Again, the top bolt here, bottom one there. I don't have the inch pounds for that, but I'll try to put them in the description at the end of this video for all the torque on all the bolts. Now we're going to just reconnect some of the pigtails. Also good to note, when reinstalling the power cable, this part right here will actually snap in. You'll feel a little click, and that's the 12 millimeter we're going to bolt down now. Okay, once that is complete, now we're going to reinstall our tensioner. Again, you'll have to negotiate it way in. Let's see if I can do a one shot here while I got you. Now it's going to take two hands. Okay, so on another look here, this is where the bottom bolt goes. That is also notched out like the bottom of the alternator, so you can actually slide it in, which I'm going to try to do on video for you. Okay, so once we have it in here, as you can see, it just slides in right there, and you can slide this on top. Can't see that when it's bolted on, but so if you haven't disassembled it yet, or you're just watching this video before actually doing the job, unbolt this. Got to take the nut off completely. You can crack this loose. Once the bolt is loosened, you can move it in and out, unthreaded from the point that it's threaded into. Then this will just slide out and up. Okay, now that that's bolted down, I didn't show it on the video, but I did put anti-seize on the nut and the bolt that's down there. I have them already over here for the engine mount. You only need to put a little bit at the top because then the nut will drag it down. Now we have the 17 millimeter for the belt tensioner to put the belt on, which I'll need two hands, but I just want to show you it's going to go again towards the firewall. And being that it's hydraulic, you don't have to like struggle. Okay, now that we got the belt on, I'm just going to show you how easy it comes back. There's not that much tension on it. It just goes off like that, nice and easy. Now you can reinstall the ABS harness cable. A lot of people like to use dielectric jelly over here to avoid corrosion, depending on where you're located in the world. Heavy moisture areas will dictate corrosion is always a possibility. We don't need to do it here. This is Florida. Okay, so I did put a little pea blaster along the mechanism on the outside, not to interfere with the wiring, because it was tough to get back, but I just wanted to show you this is a locked position. Now we put on the engine mount with the respective bolts and where it goes. Okay, you're gonna have to lower the motor with the jack little bit by little bit. Once you get it on, make sure the three nuts are on so that way it can't jump out. Remember that the two short bolts go on the outside there and down there. Oop, down there, and then this one is the long bolt. Okay, and now for the last bolt, because it's all the way deep down there, if you have your bolt just hanging off your socket, it's probably going to fall out. So what I did was I just put a little piece of napkin or paper towel, or if you're a smoker, you get that foil on the inside of the pack, and then you just put it between the socket and the head of the bolt, and it doesn't go anywhere. So then you can just lace it down there nice and easy without having to worry about it dropping and chasing. So once you got these three mount to frame bolts, and the napkin might still be down there, all you got to do is reach down there and grab it, no big deal. All 17 millimeters again. There's your three 17 millimeter bolts. Make sure that you clip these back in. That everything goes correspondingly where it should. Okay, and as you see, the bungee is off here. Go over everything, make sure it's fully connected, all your pigtails are connected, anything that you touched or took apart And we're going to put a little grease over here. I think there's one on the other side. And that's pretty much it for the reinstallation, removal and installation on a I believe it's 2010 to 2018 Mazda CX-5, or at least the Mazda 2.5 motors that have this setup. And now we got to reconnect the battery. After reconnecting the battery, you have this cover. I found the 2 points on there. It's up to you if you want to do it, but I put a little grease on it, and then put a little grease in there in a moment. Of course, don't forget the bottom deflector with all the 10 millimeters usually in the front. There's 2 on each side in the corners, and the rest are push pins. You don't have to remove the oil filter access door. I believe it's the oil drain access door. And that's it, pretty much. You're all set here. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and follow. If this video's helped you, or you know somebody that can, please share it with them. And we're looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Oh, by the way, last but not least, make sure you get your alternator tested on these vehicles in the car. They cannot be tested outside the car, so don't remove it and go down there and get it tested at the local auto parts store. They will not be able to do it. The way Mazda designed this is for it to be tested only in the vehicle. Thanks again for watching another edition of Solved, and stay safe out there.